are so happy to see you again. My name is Alina. I am a program manager at UCLA Executive Education. I'm here on behalf of Ani, who is usually here for these webinars, but there was another one happening tonight as well. So I'm tag teaming with her. And I just wanted to say a few words about Professor Blevins before we officially begin. So tonight we are with Professor John Blevins. He's an assistant adjunct professor who teaches strategic management for technology-based businesses. I can't speak tonight. He specializes in emerging technologies that are disrupting traditional business models, including cloud computing, big data, social media, analytics, mobility, and technology convergence. His work experience includes roles at Deloitte Consulting, Microsoft, Oracle, Shell Oil, and he's held a variety of technology and management positions based all over the world, based in Houston, Dallas, New York, Miami, the list goes on and on. He provides consulting services to the technology, telecommunications, media environment, financial services, energy, CPG, and many other sectors. He has expertise in strategy development, business technology alignment, framework creation, venture capital investment decisions, and new business model creation. And Blevins is the founder of Navigation Point, which provides advisory services and venture capital funding to the emerging technologies industry. He has a BS in civil engineering with a heavy concentration in speech communications from the University of Alabama, as well as an MBA from UCLA Anderson. We are so happy to be with you tonight, and I will pass it over.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that introduction, Lena. I appreciate it. It's good to be back with some of the students. I know you guys have been in with me before. And this is a subject, obviously, that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is that of entrepreneurship. And I imagine we have some entrepreneurs in our class this evening, this morning. So I definitely want to get some involvement from you, and I'd love to hear about it. But I really want to go through some of the base concepts, talk to you about some key things about entrepreneurship, that it is something that can be learned and perfected over time, and also things that you need to know basically about this potential endeavor that you might take. Many of you, and I looked at the list of where everyone works for very large companies, a lot of you do, but some of you may already be have an entrepreneurial bend in your career and want to take a look at some things. And that's why we want to discuss this tonight. It's a very important topic for all business leaders to really understand. And I really want to just start off with a definition of exactly what entrepreneurship is, so we all come from the same base. And it's really the ability for us to create or extract value out of an endeavor that we're going to do. And in general, and I would say almost for sure without any question, it usually involves more risk than you would take in just a regular job. However, it's probably less than you think. And that's what I want to kind of remind you of, that it's really a way for you to find where you can do some value creation that others are willing to pay for. It's the designing, launching, and running of a brand new business. And many of you are senior in your careers, and so you know how businesses work. Could you do it on your own? Is this something that you could partake in yourself? So there are a couple of different types of entrepreneurship. And I want to bring these forward to you so you can kind of see where you might fit in any of these. And of course, by far, the largest one out there, the largest percentage of entrepreneurs are small businesses that do things for themselves. They really have no desire to grow the business, to franchise the business, to become some giant corporate conglomerate. They want to run their own business. They want to be their own person. And that is by far, globally, without question, from highly developed economies to less developed, the number one area. But the area that we often hear most about, at least as far as the news and what gets made into Hollywood blockbuster movies, is the scalable startup. And this is where you start your initiative from the very beginning, knowing that you're going to be small, with very, very well-defined plans to grow large, to become that multinational global conglomerate, to hire hundreds and thousands of people around the world to truly make an impact on the globe. And this is one we hear often a lot about. And this typically involves outside investors. Usually the capital requirements to do something like this, you have to go out and get other money. So you're actually selling yourself and your idea just as much as you're trying to create this product or service that you're doing. It usually starts with friends and family. You got to convince them first. Hopefully they'll give you some backing, but then you tend to go towards venture capital money. And of course, if you're successful there, and hopefully you can do that on your own from there, whether it's an exit or an IPO or some other model, you do so. But if you need even more, you go to the private equity spot, which is where the real gigantic dollars are. So someone like an Uber or an Airbnb or a DD might do something like that. Of course, you don't have to do all this on your own. You can do this actually inside a large corporation. I know many of you work for Fortune 500 companies where you can actually take the power of your very well established organization and have a internal venture capital fund from an executive that puts some money your way that says, hey, there's an opportunity here for us to grow and expand beyond our core market share. It's usually auxiliary to what you're doing in the company, and it would help both ends. Could you lead that effort for us? And what a great place for that is to be, because you still have a traditional job, you have the security of a large corporation, and you tend to have the large corporate financial backing of a large corporation. But you also have to realize if you do a large company entrepreneurial role, you really need to look outside the company. You've got to get some outside ideas to come in. Otherwise, it's just another division or department or area within the company itself. So you got to kind of think about that way. Normal entrepreneurs don't think that way. And the last one on this list is social entrepreneurship. This is getting a lot of attention from our younger generation, but it's the ability to actually do something that your community needs. This is not profit driven. You see something that's a problem, you see an issue that needs to be solved, and you take it upon yourself to build a team, to work together to try to solve that issue. And how fantastic and how rewarding that issue can be. So all of these are fantastic ways to do entrepreneurship. But what I've seen in the time that I've worked in this industry for the last 20, 25 years is there are very unique characteristics for those individuals that call themselves entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs. Number one is they're very confident. You almost have to be in here because it's a very unknown area that you're going into. So you got to have the confidence in yourself, your idea, and your ability to move forward and make this happen. The other thing is they tend to be very detailed planners. Starting a business takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and especially if you're using someone else's money, you can't waste it. You can't waste the time or the money. So you've got to plan out by steps how you're going to get there and how it's going to work. They're also very business savvy or market savvy, I should say. They're very insightful. It's just a key trait that they have. They can spot things in a marketplace, understand there's a need, and see if they can fulfill it. Another thing, this is one that I see a lot, is they tend to be extroverts. These are not quiet people. If they go to a party, they easily walk around the entire room and make sure they've met everyone in that room before they've left. They're masterful networkers. They tend to really understand what it takes to get to know people, get to know them quickly, and basically they market themselves, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're not just selling your idea, you're also selling yourself, and you got to have the confidence and the ability to convey that to anybody that might join you or help you or invest in you. Another thing that I've noticed on these entrepreneurs is they're excellent at money management. They really know how to prioritize spending, because if you're doing a young startup or you're an entrepreneur trying to get something new off the ground, cash flow is so critical to what you do in these roles. And if you're someone that regularly overdraws your bank account or overspends your credit card limit, that is not the trait of an entrepreneur. These people know where every dime is going and they keep an eye on it very closely. Another thing is they're very passionate people. They're just a bundle of energy. Everyone that I've met is like this. They almost have an infectious excitement about them. So when they tell you about their idea, when they tell you what they're trying to do, you actually get excited for them, and it draws people in. It's just a natural trait that they have. And even with all these amazing, incredible features that they have, one thing that they have, because they have to meet so many negative things along the way, because so many things go wrong when you start a new company, is they are very committed to this. They just don't give up, because there are going to be so many roadblocks if you were to try to do something like this. You need to understand that. So, I often talk to many students on our campus. I talk to students such as here. I know many of you have connected with me on LinkedIn, and I appreciate that. And there's these very similar reasons of why students want to be an entrepreneur, graduate students and the like. And one of the things that I've hear often is they really want to get a practical understanding of what entrepreneurship is, especially if you worked at a very large multinational Fortune 500 company. You've kind of grown up in your career with a very structured environment. And there's always that curiosity. Well, could I do my own business? What's it involve? I think I could. I've seen those Hollywood blockbuster movies. I could do that too. I've read the Wall Street Journal and seen people that have been incredibly successful. I can do that too, right? So there's always that question, could you? So you always get that hand-on experience. And I encourage everyone to do it. It's a fantastic way to learn. The other is you want to really understand, can you recognize and evaluate a good business opportunity? If you see something that's out there, could you take it, run with it, and actually make it work? Also, many of them want to understand how they build teams, especially with founders. Do I know the right resources? Can I market myself and my idea, my company well enough to encourage the absolute best people in the world to come join me, even if I can't pay them the highest salary and they have a better opportunity somewhere else? The other thing that most of the entrepreneurs want to do is they really want to design a business model. After you've been in your career 5, 10 years, you've gone through a couple of companies and departments and divisions, you've seen how business runs, and then you always wonder to yourself, could you do a business model on your own? It's a good way to try this out. And then another thing that I often hear is they really want to get comfortable with expressing themselves and their ideas and making a pitch for a business idea, and say, hey, can I successfully encourage people to invest in a business idea? And that's a good trait to have. So you kind of have to ask yourself, why would you want to be an entrepreneur? Many of you have very comfortable jobs and very high level career positions. So why do you want to do this? And one of the big things that I often hear from people is they have this incredible passion to do something, to fix something, to address something. It's really a desire to bring something to life and see it through to fruition because they know it's the way the world can get better. They know this is a need in the world or the marketplace, and they want to be able to bring it forward. And so this is a very number one reason I think I hear when people want to go into it. The other thing is it's a risk appetite. Am I willing to take the risk? Can I accept the risk? Where I am in my life with my family or my children or my spouse or partner, with my financial situation, can I accept that risk? And I would say it's probably not as risky as you think it might be. And by far, it's more rewarding. Even if it's not financially rewarding, it is fulfilling to you personally. But you tend to need to have a risk appetite if you want to be an entrepreneur. Also, you want to change the world. You want to make a difference. I know something can be better. I want to fix this. We often hear this a lot with politicians as well. If they go into that career path for the right reasons, they really want to make a difference. And the other is to control your own destiny. Many of us have worked for our boss. And wouldn't it be nice to be the boss, literally the boss of the entire company? And you can just control and decide what you do, where the company goes, where it expands to, things of that nature. And then you also want to test your talents, and I can assure you, going through a company startup will test you like nothing else. And some of the best hires I've ever made have been people that come into a large multinational corporation that I'm working that have come from their own company startup. Many have failed, most fail, by the way. But the learnings they have, they are incredible employees because they get it. They understand things far better than some hires that have come through other channels. So it's a great way to test your talents on that, to see if you can make a difference there. Now, there's also some misconceptions about entrepreneurship because you think you know how it has to be, but that may not necessarily be the case. And one of the biggest things I've always heard is, well, we've got to be the first ones to market to be successful. And there is some truth to being the first to market. There's a great way to capture market share quickly. But being first to market does not necessarily mean being the winner in the long run. Take an example of WordPerfect versus Microsoft Word, or all the Alta Vista search engine versus Google, or Friendster or MySpace. versus WeChat or Facebook or any other social media platforms. What you'll realize there is being first to market can be a benefit, but it can also be a detriment because the person who comes after you learns quite a bit from your mistakes. Also, I hear this like, oh, nobody's ever thought of this idea before. This is perfect. I've got something that no one else has thought about. And I can assure you, as great as your idea is, someone else has had it before. They may not have pursued it. They may not have been successful at getting it across the market, or they may be doing it somewhere else in the world you just don't know about. But there are very few brand new ideas. There's just too many people thinking about too many things, working on too many projects. So if you tell yourself that you've got this most amazing, incredible idea and no one else has ever thought about it again, I would ask you to revisit that and see if you wouldn't want to rethink that. Also, you also say, hey, I'm going to go into this marketplace. There's no competition. Well, you have to ask yourself as a business leader, well, why isn't anybody else in this marketplace? Maybe it's not a good marketplace to be in. Or maybe people went into it, realized that, and got out. So question, why isn't there a competition there? Also, many people think, oh, this is the best product. I only need this one product or service. My company will be extremely successful. And I would disagree. It takes a diversity of products and services that you offer out to clients to be sustainable as a business model. You can't rely on just one. It's a huge risk that you take if you do so. Also, you must start a new company to be entrepreneur. Not necessarily, just as I mentioned with the large company and doing it internally. And also, you have to ask yourself, if this is really a great concept and it's a great opportunity, those two are not necessarily the same. You may come up with something incredible and it's neat, but it doesn't make a good business idea, or no one's willing to pay for it. They like it, sure, it's okay, but it's not worth my cash or my money. So this is where you kind of ask yourself, is this something, that really makes sense? So I want to open up a poll here for everybody to find out if you really want to be an entrepreneur. And I'd like for each of you to respond, if you could, please, just so we can get an understanding of the audience here. And so I appreciate that. This is interesting. I see a lot coming in here. By far, the majority on one side. So I see this. Let me go ahead and end the poll here a little bit. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. I'll share the results with you. So yeah, most of you want to be an entrepreneur, and I hear that a lot. It's why you're in this class. I'm so happy to hear that. It's one of the best endeavors you can take. And so that's what we're going to talk a lot about tonight. So yeah, so absolutely. So glad to hear that you want to be an entrepreneur. Then I want to find out, and I'll go ahead and launch another poll here. If you have an idea that you want to work with. So let me go ahead and launch that poll. Do you have something in mind? I mean, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to go pursue some new benefit, opportunity, challenge, I would think you need the idea to come forward, to spring forward. So I want to ask if you have an idea ready to go. I mean, probably something you hadn't thought of overnight. You've probably been thinking about this for a while. So do you have an idea? Looks like most people have stopped. So let me end the poll, then I'm going to share the results out here. And most of you, it looks like, do have an idea. 2/3 to 1/3. So yeah, that's great. So I know I've got some folks in here in the class that have a great idea. Let me put this over here. And so I would like to hear about them. Can you tell us about your idea? So put it in the chat if you would, please. And I'm going to go over to this other window so everyone can see. So, and of course, make it short so we can all see it quickly. So I want to go to the chat area, the Q&A section, I should say. And Alina and Richa, if you can make sure this is open. I just see.
It should be open.
Should be open. Okay, let me go here. Okay.
I'm seeing commentary in the Q&A box.
I'm seeing it in Q&A too. I've got both windows open, chat and Q&A. So let me see if this will say, here is the chat. And I'll look at both. So hopefully that came to everyone. So let me look at this. A marketplace for dental treatment. Okay. Bilingual coaching experience. Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that. Health and lifestyle e-commerce. Interesting. Disruptive financing in the food sector. Financing fintech in the food sector. Interesting. We'll have to take a look. Electronic space for automotive. Not well formed yet. Well, you got to get the idea formed a little bit. Let me scroll up a little. Co-working space for cooks, like Alejandra, like a ghost kitchen, or like a restaurant that you want to try to work with. Gourmet bakery e-shop. That's interesting. I don't understand the e-shop, but I want to ask. Aerobics as an experience. Okay. Address the dearth of mental health issue by India, making it more accessible. Sports equipment. Baking, Krishna, you have a baking manufacturing unit for B2B. If you could open up your mic, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. What is, have you got a particular oven or something that you make? George has electric bikes. Interesting. Yeah, Krishna, if you could tell us a little bit, what kind of baking equipment are you talking about?
Hi, Professor.
Yes.
Yeah, basically, I'm already have started this idea, and we started making a small bootstrap venture on called Sweet Tooth in Hyderabad of India. The idea is currently we see that there is a niche market segment wherein the baking unit has a potential reach to all the the mom and shop coffee shops, wherein they do not have the ability to produce breads, bakery, burger bases, the pizza bases, etc. And they're
Okay.
looking out for a B2B supplier who would probably have such supply in a mass scale. So that is an interesting segment that we have figured out, and
Okay.
then we just bootstrapped and then we started working on it.
All right, good
And
to hear. Hang on with the, hold it for that for me. Manas, you have a paper cup replacement. Because you haven't thought of it very much. Let me. Anil, you have a smart cart. What do you mean by smart cart for vegetable delivery? I'm curious about that. Anil Dixit?
Morning.
Yeah, if you could just tell me, what do you mean by smart cart?
Professor, I had worked on this idea. Actually, it's similar to ice cream carts,
Ice
right?
cream
Like,
carts.
right.
Okay.
So if we manage the temperatures and we can deliver right now in India, the scenario is there are weekly or local markets, and we call it mandis, where the farm produce is of not a very high quality.
Yes.
So right, so we can
Okay, hey, I
we
tell you
can
what, stop right there. Stop right there. Would you do us a favor, right? I wanted to get a little understanding of what is in the area for this. Would you do us a favor? This is a great idea. I want to hear a little bit more about it. Can you give us the elevator pitch for your product? Like literally, like we're investors, we're loaded with money. We want to hear what this is, who you are, why should we invest in it, and what the business model is. Can you do that in, say, 60 seconds?
yes, Professor.
Great. That's the way an entrepreneur should be. I'm going to start the clock. You have 60 seconds. I want you to tell us what your elevator pitch is, and we'll go from there. So let's start.
Yeah, Professor. The purpose of this entire business concept is to serve the consumer, to solve the problem of connectivity, the gap between the producers and the consumers. So if we can serve on a business model where the consumers get benefited, just like to cite an example of Ola, Uber, what it happens, like earlier the taxis did exist earlier also, but with the coming of Ola, Ubers, they solve the problem of the people, right? So this is the same concept, based on the same concept, but a little differently differently modelized. So I have seen ice cream carts available on street corners everywhere. Similarly, if we have a smart card wherein we employ the same kind of people, we can give them their employment. They can go in, in the all lanes and localities, and directly the consumers get their stuff available at
Okay.
their doorstep at the same price.
I need you to stop there. That was your 60 seconds. All right. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. That's what entrepreneurs have to do. So I want to ask the class, and I'll look at both chat and Q&A. I'm getting both, but let's see if we can do it all in chat. Everybody, I want you to tell us about that pitch. What did you think of that? How did he do? What was good about it? What was bad about it? What did you learn about it? What did you hear? I just want you to type that into the session for us so we can hear. So just quick words. Good, bad? Did you understand what it was? Lack the numbers and market size? Yeah, I didn't hear much about the market size. That's true. I agree there. Decent, okay. What else? Would you invest your money? You've got an unlimited budget. Would you do it? I'd give them the money, right? Would you? You tell me. I'd like to have everybody participate. We just heard a 60-minute pitch from a great entrepreneur of an idea. Did you understand the idea? Do you know what he's trying to get accomplished? Not so complete, all right? What was not complete about it? What was missing? What could we do to improve it? And yeah, just, use the group chat session. Could have been clearer, all right? I agree, it could have been clearer. I do think so. You didn't fully understand it. Interesting, all right. Yeah, all right, I kind of agree with you. One of the things I noticed, the problem was not clear. What are we trying to solve? I thought that too. It was hard to understand. One of the things I noticed, I heard probably more about Ola and the rental cars. I heard about ice cream. I don't even think I heard the word veggies or vegetables in the 60 seconds. Did you guys, or did I miss it? So yeah, some numbers. It was hard to understand. Could have been more detailed. One of the things I want to do, and by the way, thank you for doing this, because it is always hard to do these pitches. I understand this. You're trying to take a concept, an idea. Yeah, how much money did you need? Exactly. I didn't hear that either. What's my payback period? Am I going to get paid back in 1 year, 5 years? Is this a 10-year return? As an entrepreneur, you've got to be very clear about what it is. Yeah, I couldn't understand the proposal either. Yeah. So let me broach that last one about the problems coming up. This tends to be something that a lot of entrepreneurs do. I see an issue. I see it perfectly. I know what problem I'm trying to solve. And it's going to be like this, like Ola for this problem, Didi for this problem, Uber for this, Airbnb for this. I hear that one all the time. You're saying that to try to get your audience convinced and understanding about what the concern is that you need to solve for a consumer. And that's actually what very first thing you said. It's to help the consumer and to get them consumers and suppliers together. But we didn't hear vegetables. One of the key things that was in there, unless I missed it, I didn't hear veggies in there. So as an entrepreneur, you've got to be very good about encapsulating your idea. My desire is to create a cart delivery company that can deliver fresh vegetables to the citizens of India in a street vendor style delivery method, like an ice cream truck that you may be familiar with. I believe I will need to start in the 3 major cities of Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore within the first year, and then expand to the top 20 cities of India by the 2nd or 3rd year. To do so, I'm going to need seed money of $1 million US with a 20% stake in my company. Would you invest? I mean, I'm just doing this off the cuff, but something very quick and easy, pointed, directive. And you hopefully you understand my idea, you know where I'm going with it, and you know what I'm gonna try to do. So ideas are very important for the entrepreneur. So I want to kind of move into the next section here. And thank you for doing that, by the way. I know we put you on the spot, but this is how we learn, and that's fantastic. You really want to figure out what this idea is. And this is where, hopefully after this class, you'll rethink the idea that you might have had in mind. And you want to think about what kind of issues you want to tackle. So in that model, you may have been tackling food scarcity in certain rural or urban markets in India. You may have been tackling the ability to connect consumer to supplier, and there's a logistics issue within the Indian market. You think you have an issue you could solve. Like, what are you trying to solve here? Or is this something like, I need to get fresh vegetables to a market that tends to be very vegetable savvy, and they need a better way to receive these goods and services because there's a lot of vegetarians in India, and it's a huge untapped market, or a huge market that could be better served, or whatever it may be. You got to think through those things. And then my first question to you as an entrepreneur, I will ask, well, are you a consumer of these vegetables? Do you have issue trying to find fresh vegetables where you live? Because that's an idea that you personally have. It's an issue you personally have. There we go. And by far, when you have the issue yourself, you know it better. It's something you're trying to solve for yourself. You're more dedicated to the item, and investors love to hear that because they feel like you've got a really good grasp of what the concerns are of the consumer and how you can solve them. The next step from that, one step removed, is do you know somebody, a close friend, a spouse, a family member that has this issue and needs it solved? Maybe not for you personally, but for them. And no, it's not your point of view, but it's one that you can understand closely. Or maybe you know of issues that others have. You see something in the marketplace, or an issue that people have that they don't even realize. And maybe this issue was people are buying uncooled vegetables. My ice cream cart type delivery method will have the vegetables cool. People didn't even consider that was an option because they didn't know it could be available before, things of that nature. But one of the things you want to do on your idea, you really want to sit down with it, think about it. I mean, really think about it and go, is this really important? Are there enough breaks in the marketplace that people can't get fresh vegetables? If they can get it, then okay, maybe you're just offering another method to get fresh vegetables. So a lot of times entrepreneurs might overestimate the importance of what their idea is. Now, that's why if it's your idea and your issue, you can be a little bit closer to it. So you want to ask yourself a series of questions, like, well, why do you want to solve this issue? Is there some connection to you personally? Do you have expertise in this area? Are you a vegetable farmer? Are you a logistics expert? What does that come about? Can someone else do this better than I can? Can Flipkart, in combination with Walmart and that new model that they put together in India, deliver fresh vegetables better than I can? Because they're very well resourced. They have a lot of expertise behind them. They're logistics experts. They're by far better capitalized than I am as a startup. Can I compete against them? Well, maybe so, depends. And then the other thing is, can you get the right resources to solve this issue? Because it's not just going to be you. You've got to convince people through this amazing 60-second pitch that you give them that you want to be able to provide a great place to come and work, and we're going to change the world. Come join me. And they can see that mission. They can see the vision that you've laid out, and they want to join you in your mission. And, can you get access to things? Do you have the cash to go buy a lot of raw vegetables? Do you have the ability of a refrigerated central location to store the vegetables before they go out in your vegetable delivery cart? How much would that cost? Is the real estate even available? Do you need to build the real estate yourself because there is no cold storage logistics system where you're trying to go into the marketplace? Things of that nature. And you have to kind of think through all of these as you go through. And, you've also got to ask yourself, is someone willing to pay me for this service? Is there a viable marketplace? Is there viable people in the market that are willing to pay for this? And can they pay? Do they have the money to pay me? Because I'm going to charge a premium for this because I'm bringing them vegetables in a new way, in a refrigerated way that they didn't have before. So I have to charge them for that. Well, if they can't afford it, and sometimes, affordability is a concern when you're going to new markets in India, is it valid? So you got to think through these issues. And then another thing you want to think about is, can you put the right agreements in place? Do you have the capability and the character and the trustworthiness to sign a multi-year lease at a cold refrigeration storage facility where you will start this business? Even though you don't have customers yet, you need somewhere to store the vegetables that you're going to buy. And will that landlord lease you that cold storage warehouse space, trusting that you're going to be able to pay the rent every month? Can you work with service suppliers to bring you these vegetables? Can you set up contracts with farmers? Do you have any credibility in the farming community? Can you get contract workers? Can you hire contract workers to go push these ice cream cart style wheelies around the city to sell the vegetables? All kinds of things you have to think through. Are you the one that has the ability to put those items together and make it work? Because these ideas need these resources, and you've got to combine them at the same time, or at least in a timely fashion, to be able to make all this work. Your customers have to be willing and ready to buy. So I imagine in this model, people probably don't buy vegetables late at night. They probably buy them in the day. So is your business model established that way? Do you have partners like farm distribution models that can bring the raw vegetables from the rural area into the cities where the major market is? Do you have employees willing to do it? Do you have contractors that will lease you various items that you're going to need, like these carts in the warehouse, suppliers, investors? You know, you've got to be able to pull all these things together. And then if you're talking, and I've noticed on a lot of these, some of these are very e-commerce based or technology based. It's a little bit easier to understand it there, but I'll put it in context for our vegetable cart seller here. Are the supportive technologies and ecosystems there? So in this model, if you have a food delivery cart, does the city in which you're going to sell the food on the street allow that? Do they allow permitting? Are the city streets designed well enough that you can push a cart down them and be able to be effective and not, you know, disrupt your cart through a lot of damage that needs it? When you start thinking of technology things, it might be a little bit easier to see and understand. And the two examples I used here are TikTok and Apple's podcasting world. So for TikTok, TikTok could not actually have been successful without the smartphone. It couldn't have done it before. It needed really fast networks to be able to deliver video services, and it needed a mechanism upon which the consumers could consume the product. You know, before when we had flip phones, it would not have worked. So if they brought that idea to market too soon, it would not have worked. Same thing with Apple's podcast. It was basically, you know, personalized broadcasting, but you need a device upon which to listen to it. And of course, that early device was the iPod. Now it's the iPhone. It does kind of the same thing. But Apple had to create an entire ecosystem, a device called an iPod, a app store to actually download the podcast from, content creators, which they had to kind of precede a little bit to get happening, to create this. It takes an entire ecosystem for those two models to be successful. So you have to ask yourself, is the timing right for those, and can we make it work? And what's really understandable here to know is timing is absolutely critical. And this is one of the biggest pieces of advice I want to give you as an entrepreneur, and that is you've got to be able to supply the market need when the need is there. So I'll give you a great example, and we're using it right now. I know the gentleman who's the CEO and founder of Zoom. He and I used to work at Microsoft together. His business exploded in March of 2020 of this year. And of course, he leveraged Amazon's Web Services cloud platform to be able to scale extremely quickly. But basically, Zoom became global critical infrastructure, and not just for our classes, for everybody, because we weren't going to traditional classrooms. Right place, right time, and more importantly, the ability to scale extremely quickly. Their growth in March was through the roof, but he had set up systems in place to be able to do so, and they were able to handle, with very few glitches, this massive large growth. Same thing with face mask. And what I find really interesting right now, everyone went into face mask production globally from say March to April. A lot of people kept right on buying, and now they are literally giving masks away because so many people have bought so much excess inventory, so much extra fabric, thinking this demand would keep going. Well, no, everyone has multiple face masks now, and the need may be going away in the next year or two. So actually demand has significantly decreased. So timing is past, that window is past. So you've got to think through, is there a window upon opportunity upon which I can move quickly? So I'll use a really simple example on, can you exploit a fad? Something that comes quickly, can you generate idea, tack onto this fad, bring it to market and exit before the fad goes away? And many of those do that. It's really a short window and you got to be able to ramp up, do your production and get out fast enough and still make quality, effort, energy, money out of that within that very short window that you have. And then most importantly, obviously fads come and go, but can you take learnings from that very short business opportunity and leverage that learning for something in the future? Because there will be additional new fads that will come along and it'll be the hot new thing that everybody wants. Can you take advantage of that very immediate market demand when it comes along? So that's a couple of the things you want to think through on this. So I love some of your content on LinkedIn, I see. So there's a couple of common success factors in this model that you want to think through of how these happen. And there are certain things that are required for business success. I truly believe the number one thing is timing. If you bring your product to market too early, no one will buy it. They don't understand it. They don't have the ecosystem to work it. So if you were TikTok and you brought your system in the days of flip phones and not smartphones, there's very few smartphones at the time, wasn't going to make it. Timing is critical in the marketplace to be able to know when to bring a product to market. So let's say you get the timing down right. You understand now is the time, let's bring this to market. Then you have to say, is there a true market for this product or service? Are there people out there willing to pay me money for it? And I want to do a market study analysis to prove that to myself, number one, but also to potential investors. So if you're at the right time and you have the right market, do you have the right team to bring it together? Because if you have an amazing team, they can do fantastic stuff. So you got to have the right team to pull all this together and bring it to the marketplace. And of course, if you have those, you need an amazing product. You actually have to build something that is better than anything else competitive wise in the marketplace, or as alternatives that consumers have to your product, which you may not consider as a competitive product, but it's a competitive alternative. And then of course, the next thing is the brand. Why should I buy your product? Do I trust your brand? Do you have a high quality brand? Is it a brand that my friends use and therefore I give it the benefit of the doubt? Is it something I've never heard of? Is it from a country that I'm not familiar with and therefore I have doubts about it? Brand is extremely important. And if you have all those things in place, is there a distribution channel that you've established to get your product or service to the consumers? If I can't get it distributed, if I can't get a hold of it as a consumer, I'm not going to buy it. Even if I want to, I can't get a hold of it. So distribution is very important here. These 6 qualities and components are required for business success. And it's in this order in priority rank. So I want to give you an example here to help you understand a little bit more about this. Brand will take precedence over distribution. So if you have a great brand, I will figure out a way to come find your product. Your brand is the best on the marketplace. I've heard about it. My friends talk about it. I'm even willing to make efforts on my part as a consumer to go find it. Maybe it's in a store completely across town. I'm willing to drive that far across town to go find it because your brand is so strong. Now, if your brand isn't strong and you may not have, the best brand there, remember product takes precedent over the brand. If the product works and it's a good product, even if I'm not so sure about your company's brand, I'll still buy it. On top of that, team takes precedent over product. If you have a great team, they can adjust on the fly to make sure they address issues in the marketplace with this various product. A great team can overcome a lot of obstacles. And then of course, sorry, a little bit of a delay than I thought. Of course, market takes precedent over the team. If you have no marketplace, I don't care how good your team is. If there's no demand for this product or service out there, you can have the world's best team. They still can't make it work. And then you may have the market. It may be out there and there's a way for you to make money off of this process. But if it's at the wrong time, it doesn't matter. So remember, timing takes precedent over marketplace. So in order, you've got to have these various components set up and ready to go. So I want you to kind of understand that. Now, let's say you get all those 6 things ready to go. You are at the perfect position. You understand it. You've done your research. But I want you to realize as an entrepreneur, you have to have the ability to pivot. And the reason I say that is because when you bring some new product or service to the marketplace, you're going to hit roadblocks. It is going to happen. I'm going to tell you this right now. Even with the world's best planning, something will happen. And it is extremely common that entrepreneurs do a pivot. Matter of fact, it's very likely to happen. So you cannot be just so married to your idea, just so strong on your idea, you can't be flexible. And that's not just you, that's also people on your team, that they need to be able to have that flexibility. Because if you have a partner or a team that's unable to be flexible, your business could run into the ground. It will kill it. And you have to really have that willingness to change when it's mandated, even if it wasn't something you were thinking of before. Trust your gut on this. So let me give you a couple of examples. One we probably all know, and 3 or 4 movies have been made about this, but it's Facebook. So of course, as you know, Facebook was started by Mark Zuckerberg at the Harvard campus in a dorm room. And it basically started as a popularity contest, a hot or not scenario. And then it kind of morphed into a dating app. And then from a dating app, it kind of morphed into the local campus gossip column at the Harvard campus. And then it did more than that. It became like a digital bulletin board for all of campus. And then he went multi-university, first starting in all the other Boston colleges, because they were basically right in the same city, and then on the East Coast, and then across the US. So then it became available for all college students, like a cross-college conversation platform. Then he opened it up to high school students. So it became like a youth conversation platform, high school and college. And then it became basically for anyone sharing for anything they wanted, but for friends only. And then it expanded to you can actually share things with people who are not your friends, anywhere, anytime, anything. Basically, this all morphed over time, allowing Facebook to really go for some user-generated content platform to have extremely personalized multimedia mass content as well as user-created content platform for you to consume what you want, very individualized viewer preferences right to what markets to you. And of course, all of that is powered by search and marketing and advertising. And that's how they pay for this model. Same thing with YouTube. YouTube started from a lot of friends in the Bay Area at a wedding. Everyone was taking videos with their cell phone. When they was trying to change videos from mobile phone to mobile phone and trying to get the videos to one another, it just became difficult, too big to email. So YouTube started as a platform to just share videos with some friends. And of course, now we know it as a global multimedia platform. Again, same model here, driven by search. YouTube is one of the biggest search engines under the Google enterprise. And of course, driven by advertising and marketing. And it's a wonderful business model. One of the things you may not have thought about, but I want you to be aware of, is about bubble wrap. So you guys are familiar with bubble wrap, right? This is the stuff that everyone's packaged with, and we all have it. It's probably bad for the environment. We got to start using less of it, but everyone uses bubble wrap, right? This actually started as wallpaper. So the creators of bubble wrap thought this would make a great wallpaper. They never imagined making bubble wrap a shipping packaging material. They actually took this to IBM, who at the time was shipping out computers and very expensive electronic equipment. And they said, hey, you could wrap your computers in this wallpaper that didn't really sell. It protects them. And now, thanks to that, Sealed Air, the name of the company, had sales of almost $5 billion last year. So talk about an entrepreneur that went from what he or she thought was creating wallpaper to becoming one of the world's largest packaging products. This is what I mean by pivot. You've got to be able to have that flexibility, because starting up a company is so risky. There are so many risks involved in this model. Number one risk is the product itself. Does it have the right feature set? Or will people really be willing to buy this? Will they part with their money to give to me for this product that I've created? Is there a big enough market out there with willing people to pay and with people that have the capability to pay for this product, because I think it's the greatest product ever. But if no one's willing to pay for it, I'm going to fail. Also on financing, is there a return on investment, an ROI, that's large enough to be worthwhile for some investor? And that includes myself, by the way. Do I want to invest all my own personal capital into this endeavor and then just make a mediocre profit? Because that's a lot of risk and it's a lot of work for probably not a lot of return. Is the ROI there? You always will have to ask that. Also, you got to ask about the competitive nature of this marketplace. How fierce is competition here? You know, I would ask, you know, how fierce is the vegetable delivery and consumption market in India? Or vegetables sold by a lot of people in India? It might be a very fierce and competitive marketplace. Is there room for me to work in that space? Or no, or can I figure out a new model, like a delivery model, like an ice cream cart that no one else is doing? And therefore there is room for me. Can I carve out a small slice of that marketplace? Also, you got to ask, you know, very honestly, look internally. Are you the right person to do this? Seriously, do you have the capability to lead a company like this? Do you have some skill set that others might not, or something you're bringing to this marketplace that's different than what's already there? And then, of course, do you have the support? Is there an ecosystem around you that helps support you? Because you're going to have questions, you're going to have issues, and you're going to have to figure out things. So, and you can't do it alone. And so this supportive ecosystem is something that's I think is very, very important. And since we are a global audience here, we have people on multiple continents for tonight's class. I want you to really understand about where these markets can be. And of course, probably one of the biggest ones a lot of people think of, especially for technology, is the San Francisco Bay Area. This is a part of the world that basically has nurtured the ability for people to come together and really follow their dreams and make the most of things that can be out there. Apologize about that. So I want to give you a little bit of understanding of what is in the Bay Area. And there are two significant universities, you've probably heard of them, Stanford and Berkeley, that are incredibly strong, that brings a lot of talented people into the area, and they tend to stay. There's also a lot of accelerators and incubators in this marketplace. One that many people know of, Y Combinator, very famous one that has some incredible graduates that work from their program. StartX is another. And then the other thing that's in the Bay Area is a lot of seed money, a lot of venture capital, a lot of people who are willing to take risk and provide these entrepreneurs capital to follow their dream, to seed the idea, to actually get this thing going, of course, in hopes of a high return for the payback on that investment. Sequoia is probably one you know, Excel Partners, Andreessen Horowitz, Draper Fisher Price, things of that nature. There's just an incredible ecosystem there. You can feel it when you get off the airplane at San Francisco Airport. It's an environment that is very supportive and very innovative and very aggressive, and it makes for a great place for an entrepreneur to be. Let me go through a couple of other these. Of course, the one I know best is Los Angeles. Three major universities there of USC, Caltech, and of course UCLA, where we're coming from. Even on the UCLA campus, we have an entrepreneurial center at UCLA Anderson called the Price Center. We also have the Easton Technology Leadership program, which is part of the Easton Center, which I used to be the faculty director for, that helps MBA students nurture those ideas for technology-oriented things. And of course, we have startups like Amplify. We have venture capital firms like Upfront Ventures. Matter of fact, Los Angeles is, it's a very spread out city. We have even small ecosystems within the city itself, such as out by the Pasadena area, which is where Caltech is, or out by the beach area of Santa Monica, which is where many of the tech startups are, down to Orange County, which is where many of the medical tech and a lot of the VR companies are. Oculus happens to be down there, part of Facebook. So even within an ecosystem, you can have smaller ecosystems that might be very specific to parts of the marketplace or specific things they're doing. Matter of fact, for these three universities in Los Angeles, each have their own startup ecosystem. There are 11 startup accelerators on the UCLA campus. One of the biggest one is Startup UCLA, but every university has their own. And what's interesting with Los Angeles and San Francisco is that there is a unique ecosystem itself just within the state of California. And no matter where you are on the planet, you understand the systems that are available in California. You understand California is innovative. Many trends come from California. Much of the tech of the world comes from California. There is a unique symbiotic relationship between the Bay Area and Southern California that actually makes both of them stronger. Just a 45-minute flight away, 50-minute flight away. So as ecosystems build, they actually can help build one another. And of course, San Francisco is by far larger, but LA is quickly becoming stronger because so many entrepreneurs have started a company, cashed out, become multi-billionaires, and then they reinvest back into the ecosystem. You can see this in New York. I know we have some students from all over the globe, Cornell Tech, NYU, Columbia, and of course, Elevation Partners, one of the early founders of Facebook, a tremendous venture capital firm. If you're in Europe, London, of course, with the London Business School, London School of Economics, and the Collider startup. Tel Aviv, and the entire country of Israel, which has had to be very innovative given some unique political situations they have there. Technion, of course, and Tel Aviv University, Patango Venture Capital, people I know there do some great job. And this one, I did pull up another one, which is the Israeli Innovation Authority, a government-funded initiative to try to bring all these factors together. So there's not just private industry. Berlin, heavily done. Startup Incubator Berlin is well known. By the way, if you're in Paris, it's Station 9. This is Sao Paulo in Brazil. BSP is well known, of course, the University of Sao Paulo. And what's interesting, there aren't as many accelerators in Sao Paulo in Brazil, but there are quite a few. But where there is less of them, industry has stepped in, such as Google, which has Google for Startups, and they have one of the biggest accelerator startups in Sao Paulo that they run. And Google has a tremendous office presence in Sao Paulo, and they understand the power of the Brazilian and South American market. So you can always tap into those. Shenzhen, Hong Kong, that incredible connection, especially with Chinese University Hong Kong, which of course has the branch in Hong Kong, but just recently opened one in Shenzhen. And this is interesting because Sequoia, one of the biggest venture capital firms on the planet, based out of Menlo Park, California, has a significant presence in Hong Kong. So there's a lot of overlap there, but the other venture accelerators that are there, Beijing for the Chinese market with Peking University and CKGSB, incredible schools there. If you're in Singapore, National University of Singapore, of course, and then they even have a startup called The Hangar on campus, which is incredible. Great place to start. And what you want to do is you want to get involved with these locations. You want to share this because you need a support ecosystem that can help you. This is a list of the top entrepreneurial support regions, the ones that are most aggressive as far as entrepreneurial environments, as according to StartBlink. I've given you this little information here, but one thing I do want to let you know, no matter where you are on the planet, if you have a good ideas don't have any type of expiration on them. Good ideas can come from anywhere, and they can bloom from anywhere. You don't necessarily need to be in one of these locations. But I found that many entrepreneurs with all those traits that we talked about before like to go to these locations because it's supportive, makes it easier, and perhaps maybe has a little bit better opportunity for success. So to do this, you've got to see, is this fantastic idea that I've come up with, that I've convinced people to help me with, that I've got a support system and a support ecosystem, is it really feasible to do this? And the only way you can do that is to start with a feasibility study, really to take a business model and work out your ideas and determine if this is feasible. Is this a concept that will work? Can you actually pull this thing off? Will it be something that's possible? And what you're trying to do is create a foundation for a very compelling business plan. Number one, yourself in your own mind, but also for others you're going to convince to help you. And really understand the financial implications of what's happening here and address key risk issues. And one thing you want to understand, there's no defined set of rules around doing these feasibility studies. They look very different depending on your market, your capability. But one thing they do, the things they do typically include are a financial analysis without question. Not just because you're going for venture capital funding to support you, but you need to do this for yourself. Is this worth your effort and energy, maybe to quit your job at a very good Fortune 500 company, and risk everything that you have to make this venture work. Is this financially viable? Does it work? It has cash flow projections. I mentioned this earlier, but cash flow is critical for startups. You do a risk analysis for things that could go wrong. You want to do a market breakdown. I want to understand where the market is, who can I get, which kinds of markets, am I going to be very niche, or am I going to go broad? What's my ROI on this? Does it make sense? If it's 2, 5, 10%, maybe I'm better off just putting my money in the market, letting it ride there. But if we're talking 20, 30, 1,000% return on investment, you've got my attention. But I need to understand the numbers before we can make that decision. Is this a 1-year projection, 2-year projection? Typically, these studies include about a 3 to 5 year projection. 3 is pretty solid. You should be able to go out 3 years. Anything after 5, though, I question. It's just too far into the future for you to be able to make that many projections that could be accurate. And of course, the further out you go, the less accurate it probably will be. And of course, even a break-even analysis. At what point do I break even? So if I have to back away, is this a 6 month, 1 year? Does it take me 3 years to break even? It takes a lot of investment to even try. It may make you want to think about how you do this. So in your feasibility study, you need to have this framework. So you understand what the business concept is and bringing in the solutions and what the problems could be. You want to look very closely at the marketplace. Is there a marketplace out there that people are willing to pay for? What's the competitive landscape look like? Is this something that I have something special in the marketplace I can bring? And then of course the financials. And if you're not strong in this area, get someone to join you that is. Some of the best entrepreneurial pitches I've ever heard have come from someone who has a great technical or idea or knows the market extremely well. And that person's business partner that understands how business works, understands the financials, has an accounting or financial background, because you want to be able to do revenue estimates. You want to be able to give your investor and yourselves what your ROI would be, how long it's going to take. And you've got to go through all of those. So you've got to put a business plan together to do this. And to do that, you're going to have to answer some very key questions. First of all, very clearly to find out what is the problem that we're trying to solve here, and why do people care about this? Why do I care about this? Which is you're going to answer you of tell you why people would be willing to pay for it. Then you have to look at the solution. What's my solution for this? And is it the right one? And if it is the right one, well, why is it the right one? Why is my solution better than anything that's already out there? And then from a managerial point of view, you have to look internally and say, am I the right person to bring this about? Do I have the skill set? Do I have the capabilities, the time, the effort, the passion, the drive, the energy to do this? Why you? And this is what an investor is going to be looking at should you need to go for venture capital. Once you figure that business plan out, you want to test the market. Remember, if there's no market demand out there and you can't get people to give you capital for what you're trying to do, it's not going to go very far. So you have to figure out who is that target market. And if there's a great target market, are they big enough to make a difference? So if I'm doing a veggie cart in India, one of the first things I'm going to think of as a growth opportunity is, okay, let's say I've captured the Indian market. What would the next market be? Is it Indonesia? Is it China? Where else do they really like vegetables? Would it be the United States or Canada or UK or Australia? Well, do they have a robust logistics and distribution system with cold storage? Maybe they do. So maybe that's not the best marketplace. Maybe Thailand might be my next best adjacent market to go into. Definitely a very agricultural society. Do they like vegetables? I've got to go through all those amounts to look at the target market and where it might be. You also have to ask yourself on the value proposition, what is it that you're offering that others are not? What makes this special? Is it because you're delivering the vegetables in real time right to me? Is it a impulse buy decision? So I'm at a park and I decide I want cooled vegetables. Are they there for me? Okay, I'll take it. What is it that makes your opportunity better or more special than anyone else's? You also got to ask yourself about the competition as well. First of all, who is the competition? And definitely you have competition, I assure you, but you have to think about, what is it that the customers are buying from those competitors that I'm not offering to them? Or is there a substitute? If I'm selling vegetables, could they eat a hamburger instead? Could they eat hummus instead, which is not vegetables in the system that we would think? Are there alternatives that they could look at? You have to go through that. Of course, once you start looking at the market testing, the finances and the financial modeling are critical. So, yeah. So I want to make sure that you understand that if you don't have a strong business model that really lays out clearly, this should be a very detailed spreadsheet, that this company can return a profit, it can make money, it can at least break even, if nothing else. You know, how successful can it be? What are your gross margins going to be? What's your markup going to be? What's the profitability factor going to be? Is this a recurring revenue stream, or is it a one-time sale and I just need to keep selling over and over and over? So therefore, my scaling capability might be hindered. You also have to look at cost. How much will it cost, both fixed and variable costs? Fixed cost, of course, that one-time sync. Variable cost, the costs that come in every time you sell something, you have additional variable costs that come in. The startup cost, which will absolutely be there. The overhead expenses that you need to plan for. All of those have to be put into the model so you understand what the full value is going to be. And then, of course, the other thing is, how long will it take for this to happen? And that's your financial model, really doing a break-even analysis that says, hey, by year 1, we should be at break even. By year 1.5, year and a half, we'll be at break even. After that, we can scale better. We can actually start making some profitability. You have to think through each of these models. So I do see 1 or 2 questions, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on the chat, but I want to make sure we get through this, and we'll answer some questions towards the end. I think we'll have some more time. But I want to go through kind of the venture life cycle with you, because I think this is important, because many of you will probably choose that model with a high growth startup model where you want to franchise or you want to expand to other markets across the globe. And to do that, you're going to need venture funding. So in a very typical ideal situation, you would start with a feasibility study and you would say, yes, it's very feasible. And then you would develop a business plan. Yep, it's a high quality business plan. Sounds good. That business plan will tell you how much you need to make it work. So you go get funding, and then you go to the marketplace and you become the preeminent supplier of whatever this new product is going to be. That's the ideal situation. But in reality, it tends to work a little bit differently. It doesn't follow that normal path. And as a new entrepreneur, I want you to recognize that fact, because I've seen so many entrepreneurs get flustered when it goes out of order. And sometimes you put a feasibility study together, but you might need to go check the marketplace. Is there a market validity there? Or you have a unique opportunity to meet with a funding expert, but you're not quite ready. That's okay, you go speak to that person. And if the venture capitalist says, well, I need this in your business plan, you might have to go back and revise the business plan. This is more typical of a likely scenario you'll have. And you might actually iterate in this model for a while. And that's okay. If you're iterating, at least it tells you there's some capability that says there's something here that can be successful. Because when it stops iterating, then you're really in trouble. But this tends to be the way it happens. But what's key and what's number one is it always, always, always starts with a feasibility study. So if you take anything from this session today, is that you have to have a viable model that is feasible and that works. So no matter where it happens within that, you always have to have something that's feasible. And of course, you feel confident in your abilities, and you should. And you recognize, like, I've got a great idea, I understand the market, but there is some dissonance risk, even in your own mind, that you need to be aware of, something that you may not have thought through. So I want to kind of help you set a little bit on a little reset of your expectations, because these are things that I hear typically, and the more you're aware of them, you can understand them better, and hopefully you don't fall into traps. And one of the things that I hear oftentimes when I'm being told about a new product or market or service is that my idea is incredibly special. Nobody has ever thought of this before. It's the most incredible thing ever. It's super unique. And I need to help convince you that it's not as unique as you think, or it's not as special as you might believe it to be. I don't want to discount that passion, because you absolutely need high passion to be able to bring something to marketplace with this, but it's probably not the first time this has come to market. And as a venture capital investor, I will hear people come try to pitch me, and they'll say, I can't tell you about it. It's so secret. This is so esoteric. Matter of fact, it's so secret, I need you to sign an NDA before I can even tell you about it, because, it's such an amazing idea. And I will tell you without question, venture capitalists do not sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And the reason they don't sign NDAs is because they hear pitches all day long. If you have an idea, they have probably been pitched it in some form or fashion before, but maybe you produce it better, you are more trustworthy, you better understand the marketplace. So you'll win them over, don't worry. But if they were to sign an NDA with every person that came in to them to give an idea and give a pitch, they would be sued all the time, because some company that wasn't successful to begin with, and it could have just been an idea, would say, hey, you took my idea. And the venture capitalist will be like, no, I had 5 people in that day that gave me a similar idea. So don't even ask them to sign an NDA. They're not going to do it. I'm telling you right now. The other thing that I hear so many times is when I get a pitch is, there's absolutely no competition for my idea. This thing, nobody's thought about it. There's no competition. And I can assure you there is competition. You may not have thought it through. You may not recognize that there is an alternative to whatever you're producing, but there is competition. So do yourself a favor and don't say that. The other thing you might erroneously say is, hey, the market opportunity here is phenomenal. It's unlimited. There's so much TAM, total addressable market, that we're guaranteed to be successful here. Well, we all know that's not true. There is no unlimited marketplace. There's only so much marketplace for whatever you're trying to sell. So recognize that, realize it, be realistic with it, and give we could get 5% of the market by year 1, 15 by year 2. We think we'll top out at 25% over 5 years, something like that, something recognizable and reasonable, and why you think you can get that much market share. And then whatever you do, don't say there's absolutely no way this idea can fail. It's so good, it's fail proof. We know from history that's not the case. So you got to kind of reset your expectations, but keep that passion. Passion is good. You don't want to lose that. The other thing that entrepreneurship requires, given that I'm going to give you lots of good things, but I'm also going to tell you all these things that you got to look out for, is perseverance. You've got to persevere through all kinds of adversity. You're going to run into a lot of things, and it's going to require a lot of hard work on your part. Consistently hard work. There's really no downtime when you're an entrepreneur, but usually you're doing it with such passion and joy, it doesn't feel like work. You actually enjoy doing what you're doing. And recognize that you're going to go through a lot of thought energy, like a lot of brain work. I mean, it's tiring. It's going to be morning, noon, and night. You're going to think about it when you're laying in bed. So just recognize it's going to drain you, and make sure the people around you know that, and they're willing to support you through this very incredible time. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of passion. You have to be extremely flexible, because things will come of you that you did not put in the plan. As much as you think about it, go over it, there will be things that you didn't think of. You've got to be open to critiques. So if I tell you that a refrigerated vegetable cart won't work for these reasons, accept that as criticism. Take that as fantastic advice, and then go prove me wrong by solving the issue that I brought up. And if you can't take criticism, it would be very difficult to be an entrepreneur. So recognize every time someone critiques an issue, item, product that you produce, they're actually helping you. So thank them. It's really helpful for that. It absolutely will be a collaborative effort. You cannot do it on your own. And it requires a ton of inspiration. You have to inspire yourself and your team every day you go into the office, because it just takes a lot of effort and energy to make this work. Now, many of you will go through items that require funding. And I can tell you from a VC point of view, what we're looking for in you when you come and pitch us. One is integrity. Can we trust you with our money? If we give you this amount of money, are you going to do actually what you say? Are you passionate? Are you dedicated to this project? Do you have a vision for a long-term goal? So if you're doing a vegetable cart distribution business in India, do you have some vision of a long-term goal of doing similar carts in Indonesia and Thailand and other markets around the world? Do you have the experience? Have you created an organization before? Have you ran a division or an area for a large Fortune 500 company, and you can leverage that knowledge into this one because you're going to have to run it all yourself? Is the thing you're trying to pitch to me real? Is it obtainable? I mean, you got to have a sense of realism when it comes to this. And also, do you have the knowledge about this? Do you really understand the market well enough? Are you a consumer of this product or service? Do you know it well enough? And are you committed to it? Can you persevere through all these negative things that are going to happen to you? And of course, we're also looking for intelligence. Do you have the ability to really be flexible and deal with an undefined future, because we don't know what that's going to be? Also, do you have the capability to lead, the ability to scale yourself through motivating others? Because otherwise, you're just going to work yourself into the ground, and then none of us will be successful and you won't be happy. So you're going to have to motivate others through your leadership skills to come help you with this. And then, are you coachable? Remember, venture capitalists do more than just provide funding for you. They are your guides. They are your mentors. They're the ones that can help you, but you've got to be open to that help. And for people that are so stuck in their ways or passionate about what they do without flexibility, that makes you potentially uncoachable. And venture capitalists come with a lot of experience, and they're there to help you because they want you to succeed. So let me go through this. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly as we kind of come close to the last 15 minutes of class. Some statistics I want you to understand about. And these are kind of hard truths that I want you to recognize and learn. And number one, 80% plus, I'll just say more than 80% of these endeavors will fail. So that's a harsh understanding to recognize, but now that you know it, that's good. The reason it's good is because we know that entrepreneurs are getting far more successful over time. You can see it's declined 30% by 1977. We're getting much better and better at this. Schools such as this one is getting much better at teaching these capabilities to you. And if you fail 2 or 3 times, that's actually a good thing in a venture capitalist eyes, because that means you have learned through the failures. And so your 4th or 5th one will be extremely successful. And when a VC invests in an entrepreneur, they actually look for that. Have you done this before? Do you understand what you're really getting into? 2 or 3 failures on your belt can actually be a good thing sometimes. Realize that the financial risk can be significant. You don't want to put all of your financial money into this endeavor because it might fail. Matter of fact, the odds are it will. So just be cautious of that. The average age, by the way, of a successful entrepreneur is 45 years old. I know many times people think it's this young person. The average age is 45. The number one reason businesses fail is because there is no market need. You may have a great idea, but if there's no market for it, it will fail. 23% of all businesses fail within the first year. The first year is critical, especially on cash flow. So definitely look at your cash flow statement extremely quickly. Extremely diligently. 382 million entrepreneurs in the world. And by the way, I'll give you all these stats in this deck after the class. 60% of, and by the way, the reason that you want to know that, there's a lot of you out there. And there's a lot of us here just in this class. Studies have shown, this is just fact, middle-aged men are the most successful in this business. This comes from MIT Sloan. So if you are not a middle-aged man, you might want to find a partner that is, just statistically. And that's the only reason why, because this is what the data is showing. It's probably, due to some cultural issues that have been around for many decades, but that's what the statistics show. 33% of entrepreneurs only have a high school degree. You do not need a graduate degree or an MBA. Matter of fact, only 3% have a master's or PhD. So don't think you have to have an MBA or some advanced degree to do this. Only 9% of entrepreneurs even have a bachelor's degree in business, but 2/3 of them didn't go to college. So just recognize that so you understand where you are on this. The other thing you want to think statistically, that the highest percentage of entrepreneurs are in the construction and related trades field, 19.6%, followed by retail, real estate, and consulting, and 10.3%. Creative professionals, which I know we have some of those in the class, about 7th in line. Marketing is last at 1.7. So understand statistically where things are for success for these entrepreneurs and where they're being able to be seen. One of the things I want to bring to your attention, maybe you're not familiar with it, is the Global Entrepreneurship Index. The United States, according to this index, at 83.6, is the best country, the best systems, the best infrastructure, the best capabilities, the best universities, all the things that you need, cash flow, capital requirements are best in the United States. And that's why we see so many individuals globally come to the US and be extremely successful. Google started by a non-US person. Elon Musk, obviously from South Africa. I mean, the list goes on and on. Steve Jobs, immigrant. Lots of immigrants have come to America and have done an incredible job. Switzerland, number 2. You see Canada, UK, and Australia as the next 3. The last is Chad, with just a index factor of 9. So if you're in a marketplace that is not ripe for the support mechanism and the supportive ecosystem, understand that and consider it. I have provided you the website, and I'll leave that with you again with this this slide deck. So let's go into the strategy. This is an entrepreneurial strategy class. You want to have a plan. You want to have something that you can move forward with. So the number one thing you want to do is start with a vision, some destination for you and your company, where you want to go and how you're going to get there. Develop that idea, and then without question, confirm there's a market need for it. If there's no need, then don't do it. Create your feasibility study, and remember those 6 components I gave you, from timing being number 1, all the way down to distribution being number 6. All of those must be able to be activated. If they're not, something's amiss there, it will be a potential downfall for it. Also, clearly define your vision and learn how to effectively communicate it very quickly. You must perfect that 60-second pitch about you, your company, your market, the financials, what it means, and why people should be listening to you in 60 seconds or less. You have to get that together. It takes lots of trial and error, lots of failures. That's okay. Practice is good. Practice on everyone you know, and you will perfect that pitch down very succinctly. Now, one thing you want to realize here is all of these items are up to you. All of these are on you, if you will, meaning they're in your direct control. Now that we've got those out of the way, I'm going to continue the list that aren't as much in your direct control. And this is where you're starting to involve others. One is you're going to have to recruit support for your efforts. So do you have the capability to do that? You're going to have to leverage a support ecosystem. You remember, you want lots of inputs, and many cities are set up for this. You're going to have to plan your rollout, your growth, your development, put a timeline on it, and absolutely put milestones. If your first month you need 3 customers, by the 6th month you need 100 customers, and by the first year you need 1,000 customers, and you're not meeting those milestones, go back and revise your model and make sure that you're meeting your own set milestones. The other thing, you want to develop an early prototype. Even before you get funding, take money out of your pocket if you have to, but prove that it works. Solicit funding if it's required, usually through venture capital, but start with angel funding. Probably friends and family are going to be your first, and they will listen to your pitch nicely with a smile. So perfect your pitch with them first. And also, you want to figure out a way to move forward without hesitating, and recognize, you always say, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. You're never going to be 100% ready. Just move forward with it and make it happen. The other thing I would say is be a student of others. Look at other successful entrepreneurs, of what they've done, what made them successful, how their idea blossomed, and make it happen. So let me give an example here with Reed Hastings from Netflix. Of course, he started distributing content on CDs in the mail, all the while knowing that was just a temporary model. His vision was to get to digital streaming of content. And of course, once he did that, he could actually make his own content. This happens to be the Netflix brand new built studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they're creating their own unique and distinctive content themselves. So they're becoming a completely backward integration chain. Tremendous model. The other thing, Elon Musk, many of you are familiar with him, with his Tesla model cars. He started with the plan selling an extremely expensive Roadster that would generate a lot of revenue for the next car, which was the Model S, again, a luxury model, which would generate a lot of revenue, which would get him to a mass market car below $35,000, which was the Model 3. And of course, now the big rumor is he'll be going to that next lower model of 25,000, which is far more attainable for most people on the planet. That's US dollars, with a Model 2 model. Each one of these by plan fed to the other. And that was his plan. Matter of fact, you know, Elon is an incredible guy. His goal is to try to get us to Mars. And if you think through a well-planned model, let me take you through this one. So if you go to Mars, you're going to need a power source. And there's not a utility plant up there, but there is sun. So he started Solar City, which is now part of Tesla, to create solar panels. There's sun up there. You can generate your own electricity. But of course, when the planet gets dark on the night, you're going to need a way to store it. And so he went into batteries, and how he has battery technology, especially at the home with the wall batteries. And of course, if you're going to go around this planet, the atmosphere is not very conducive for humans. So you're going to probably send autonomous vehicles out to go do things for you. So you're going to need some autonomous driving, which they've perfected in the Tesla cars. And of course, if you do that, you probably want to travel around this new planet, but that planet doesn't have an atmosphere. So you can't put jet planes because the wings can't do the lift because there's no air, at least not enough. So maybe we'll do a hyperloop, almost like tubes between the various cities on this new planet. And of course, if you do that, you're probably going to need to go around some obstacles that are there, maybe like a Martian mountain. So maybe you might need to actually dig into the Martian soil. So you're going to need a boring company to do so, to be about the size of a hyperloop tube that could go around the planet. So we'll do a boring company. And then let's see, what do you do with the dirt that comes out of the back of the boring company? Well, I need to build things. So how about if I take this mud that comes out and turn it into bricks? And, you know, people laugh here on this planet, you know, why would you want these cheap mud bricks? But if you think about it, Martian buildings, which people are going to be living underground because of the solar radiation, I would take those bricks because there's no brick factory up in Mars. And let's see, if I'm living up there, I'm going to need to communicate. Well, I don't want to lay a lot of copper wire like we did on this planet. Maybe I'll just put a lot of satellites up for communication, like, I don't know, like SpaceX satellite links. Well, is there a planet that Elon can test that out on first? Yeah, Earth. So he's testing it out here, and then he could put that same system up on Mars. And of course, you know, he's going to need a transport system to get back and forth between the two planets. That's, of course, his SpaceX model. So this is where an entrepreneur has really thought through a long model for this. So about 4 minutes left. I want to give you some takeaways here. And the number one thing is to just start it. Don't procrastinate. One thing is you'll come up with this great idea, and studies have shown if you don't do something with that idea within 3 minutes, you forget it. So even if you just write it down, write that idea down. And remember, working on an idea, solving a problem is way better than just thinking about it. Actually go do it. But remember, ideas are easy. Everybody has ideas, but doing it is hard. So timing is critical for that. But I want you to recognize this. People who never take risk are the ones who work for the people who do. And if you truly want to be an entrepreneur, this is where you have to take that risk. All right, so we're right just before time. I want to open it up for any discussion. If you have a question, please raise your hand. I see Hinder Rana has a question. So Harinda, if you want to answer your question.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for all the insights.
Absolutely.
So I think you have already answered a couple of my questions already in your subsequent slides, in your previous slides. So I'm exploring a startup. Can I reach out to you separately for a small discussion, if you don't mind? Because right now it's going to take time.
Absolutely, no problem. My rates are very good, by the way. You know, yeah, send me a quick email, no problem.
Okay,
Rohit,
perfect.
no problem. Rohit, you have your hand up, I see. So Rohit, there you go. You should be on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, I have a question, right? So as part of the feasibility study, is it a good idea to do a proof of concept?
You would put that in the study itself that you're going to do that, but I would put that by when you start actually doing a product. So, you know, you want to do like a pilot, proof of concept, a trial model, even before you go for funding. It wouldn't necessarily, the line item would be in the feasibility study. You would put it in there, but it would actually be another step to actually do a proof of concept. But yes, you absolutely would. I would highly recommend it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Tomas Tocaro? All right.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, how are you? I was going to ask you a question, but following up on the question of the following of the other guys, when you
Sure.
talk about proof of concept, it's like it should be like a case study, should be an MVP, because we had a hard time defining this proof of concept and we ended up like closing the startup. So when you talk about proof of concept, what it is that is in your mind? And then I have another question if you have some time.
No problem. So if you've done a proof of concept or you've tried to do some things and it didn't work, that's actually good. You need to find that out before you go too far down the line. Matter of fact, most times you'll start it, you'll try something, it didn't quite work. Do we throw it all away? No, let's sit back down, revisit it, and you pivot. You'll figure something out when you build the proof of concept, when you build the minimum viable product, MVP product. You'll actually learn from that. And you might come up with something even better than what you did before. So I strongly recommend it. So I think it's a good idea to do that, actually.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No
And
problem. Sure, go
sorry,
ahead.
yes. No, sorry. Yes, yeah, thank you. No, and the other question is, we take the decision of going bootstrapping, and I don't know if it was the best decision because in the end we ran out of cash, and I would like to know. Sorry about my dog's barking. What is the what is like the good time for start bootstrapping and go for VC money? Sorry about that. I'm going to
That's
hear
all right.
myself.
I'll let you go on mute and I'll respond. So one of the things I want to let you know, if you can bootstrap, absolutely do it. Venture capitalists are also called vulture capitalists. They take a large percentage of your company. If you can bootstrap it, absolutely do it. Usually most people can't. You can do the first bit. You can do a proof of concept, a small thing that you're going to have to put some money out of pocket no matter what. Matter of fact, if you don't put money out of pocket, your investors, your friends and family will wonder, well, you don't believe enough in the idea to put your own money in. So you almost always have to put your own money in. And then I would say, go to friends and family. They will loan you the money, not ask for investment. But a venture capitalist, angel investors, they want a piece of your company and they take large pieces, significant pieces. And so if you ever do hit it big, they make a fortune. Of course, that's why they do it. But absolutely try to bootstrap it the best you can. I've had a lot of entrepreneurs, max out credit cards. You can get, at least in this country, you can get a lot of free credit on credit cards, but it comes at an extremely high cost. And I would recommend against it, not because you have a bad idea, not because it'll easily make the money back, because it's just the risk is too high, because it just might not work. And it's so expensive. So I'd recommend not doing it. But I do know a lot of people that do. So,
Okay,
Eduardo,
thank you very
you had
much.
sure, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Eduardo, you had your hand up? Eduardo Canton?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Thank you very much for the webinar, Professor.
Absolutely.
I would like to ask you something, especially with one company that there is already in the market. I'm an entrepreneur for more than 7 years. And one of the things that I face, and I would like to know your opinion, is when you're trying to go to the next level, to do your company a little bigger and try to find some investment, but the people that you're trying to reach or offer the idea of your projects, they can see that probably the best asset of your company is you and not the company. What is the risk? And honestly, I can see that kind of things with many of my friends, that they start their companies, that when you start very, very small and you have to do everything, you have to do the logistics, the financial, everything, because you don't want to spend the wrong money in the wrong place. And then you need to do that. So what do you think about this situation?
Well, let me give you
Thank
some
you.
thoughts and some experiences too. That is that, yes, you are sales, you are marketing, you are collections, you are everything as a one-person shop. In your case, one-man shop. So it's very difficult. It takes a lot of effort and energy. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that have been allowed their companies to be bought out by a large firm. So they've gone from a CEO role to a divisional vice president or an area leader within there. And because they really want to see their idea to fruition, they know they need cash resources to scale. They know they need a team to scale. They might even need the branding of the larger company to scale. Larger companies have that infrastructure. They can push it out globally. So you want your your baby to go and thrive and be fantastic. So it's actually good for you. However, it comes with some downsides. Number one, you're no longer the boss. You have someone to answer to. Number two is, you have a punch a clock 9 to 5, but there is upsides too. You have a guaranteed income, you have a steady paycheck, you get a vacation, all the normal things. So what I recommend entrepreneurs do is in the sale process, in the agreement to acquisition process, depending on how it might be, you work out very distinctly in the contract the autonomy you'll be given within that division. And most companies, and I'll use Google as an example, they do about an acquisition a week. I know a lot of people there. I've helped some folks with that one. Google knows that when they buy you, they don't want to smother you. They don't want to hamper the thing they're buying, which is you. So they want to give you some freedom. Now, of course, they can't give you 100% freedom because there's some issues within a large corporation they have to follow. But very, very distinctive and clear on how much autonomy you will have within the contract. And if it doesn't look right for you, back away. It's not the right firm. And you might get into a position where you could go to their competitor and say, hey, your competitor wanted to buy me. We couldn't make it work. Maybe you do. And selling out that way, exiting that way, that's not a bad strategy. You tend to get a large paycheck when that happens. You get a great position and you still get to follow your passion with the backing of a large firm. So I encourage it if it's the right way to do it. So I hope that helps, Eduardo.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Dhiraj?
Hi, good evening, Professor.
Good evening.
Professor, I wanted to understand how can someone in India leverage the ecosystems that you took us through, say in US, or me being a student of UCLA PG Pro, how can I access, the ecosystem available in UCLA or any other place actually? And what are the chances like? Does geography play a role or something like that?
I go back to ideas don't follow country borders. Any good idea with any good concept with an excellent entrepreneur can be successful anywhere. So you got to remember that, number one. One of the things that's interesting about India, it is the hot market right now. Everyone, Europe, China, North America, everyone is rushing into India because they know it is the next large growth market. Amazon has gone in big, Walmart has gone in big, Google has gone in big, Facebook has gone in big. I'm mentioning American firms, of course. All the banking sector from London and New York have gone in big. You actually are at a very nice sweet spot at this point. Matter of fact, traditionally, a lot of very highly educated Indian natives have come to the United States, been warmly welcomed, and been very successful, especially in Silicon Valley. They are now returning home. So I would suggest that you leverage that relationship. If I can find it, I'll send it out to you, but there is a Indian-American connection, mainly between Bangalore, Hyderabad, and the Bay Area. It's a group of executives that want to see both markets succeed, and they go back and forth and they help. So there is an ecosystem that is bridging there. Of course, I'm most familiar with Bangalore. It's a great ecosystem. Mumbai, of course, is a business capital. Delhi, of course, is a gigantic market. Chennai has some opportunities as well, but you've got to find those right facilities. So specifically within Bangalore, Tata has a great incubator there that you apply to. I think they take 20 companies per class, and I think they do 2 classes a year. You just have to be very aggressive to find where those are. And if you're not finding them in your home market in India, don't let that disturb you. Reach out to others. And so, of course, you have connections through this program to fantastic resources, but be aggressive. And remember, you might be the bridge for someone in the EU or in North America who wants to come into the Indian market. And what a great opportunity for you to make a partnership because you understand that market and they can bring expertise that you might not have. And it makes for a fantastic opportunity. So I hope that helps.
Thanks, Professor.
Absolutely. Samir? I know we're past time. If you need to drop off, that's okay. But Samir, you had the next question?
Yes. Hello, Professor. Thank you for information. I really enjoy it. And that's basically what I'm looking for in this program. And I'm located in Los Angeles, California. And about more than a year ago, we launched our co-living It's Sota Co-Living in Los Angeles. And our original plan was basically to run the model to see how it works, because it's not so popular as in Europe, in India as well. But here it's something new. And we ran the model with our own money. We was very bootstrapping, and it was crazy. But like the results was very satisfying. And in March, the COVID hits. And unfortunately for us, we feel that very much. But fortunately, in the same time, we're right now kind of, because of efficiency, we're breaking in even. Sometimes we're a little bit above the water. But at this point, morally, it's really tough for us, because the idea was to invest our own money, and that was made because we don't want to invite investor on the early stage before the model is checked. But right now we know the model is working. We know that the market is ready. We know that there is target audience, and we know how to work with it. We have the really great team. But right now we don't know what to do, basically. I'm not asking you what we need to do, but from your perspective and experience, do you think this is the right time to find investments?
So you've hit a stall point, it sounds like, and that can happen. But you said something that it caught my ear, and you said that you're break even, maybe a little bit of money. That's
Yes.
fantastic. You should be very proud of that. What that says is it's a proven model. So now the next thing you have to determine is, how do we scale? And by increasing this capability to scale, you're going to lower your cost, your overhead cost, and you're also going to expand your markets, which will bring in more revenue. You're kind of like this stall point, I believe, from what little I've heard. So there's multiple ways you can go about it. If you can continue to bootstrap it, of course, I highly recommend that. You keep all the profitability for yourself. Nobody's getting into your business. But it sounds like you've been doing it for a while. And I do want to say, for this past year, the Los Angeles market, which I'm familiar with, has gotten more venture capital investment than any year in its history, even with what's happening this year. So the capital is out there. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of idle capital desperate for a place to find a park. That's why you see so much going up in the stock market. The interest rates are so low, money needs a place to go find. So there's a lot of venture capital money slushing around out there. But if you go that route, you got to put a very distinctive plan together that decides out how much you need and how you will scale. So look at what's happening now in your business, determine where you can find efficiencies, because what you've already determined is it can be successful. Great. Now we got to perfect it, find efficiencies, reduce costs, or figure out ways to expand the product. So if it's a word of mouth product, give a month or two of service free for every friend of the person that's in it comes in, word of mouth. Maybe it's a viral campaign, but all of those take money. All of that takes time and energy. So you can now probably go to a VC, if you can't do it yourself, that says, hey, we've got a plan. We're ready to go. This is going to help us scale, reduce cost, and raise revenues by finding new customers. Do those two things together, and you got some cushion. You got some room to play. Then you can have money to invest and decide, improve the product, go to a new market, whatever it might be. So you're right at that stall point, but it's not unbearable. You can do this, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Claudio, you have your hands up? Claudio, you may be self-mute. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Professor. First of all, thanks a lot for your teaching. It's quite useful. Yeah, my question to you is actually, I'm running a startup. This is actually my first year, and what I'm doing is I'm in the financial industry, and this is a very quite niche product. So we're having trouble. Fortunately, last year was a good year for us, and we came we ended up with profit. But the thing is, for us to make a business plan has been quite a challenge, since we didn't have a benchmark. This is a product that it's a service. It's born in the service industry. It's a tailor-made solutions. So we don't know. I mean, if we are actually pricing correctly what we're doing, what our knowledge on that product. actually, one of the questions that you actually read out loud was that we are about the disruptive financial solutions in the food and ag sector. That's what we do. So, so basically, it's my question to you is that as a startup and to build a successful business model, and then eventually to think not only on friends and family, but going further to venture capital, how to build up this business plan, because we didn't have like a time frame or a timetable that I'm gonna be delivering 1, 2, or 3 products to X, Y, and Z clients, because this is like on a continuous selling strategy. So to plan that way ahead and think on how much money I'm going to make this year is going to be quite complicated. So what are your thoughts on how should we actually be aiming on building up that financial model for leveraging our business?
Okay. Well, first of all, it's good that you're at this position because you actually have real numbers to put into the business model. Most are ideas and it's all kind of conjecture. So you're at a good position there. But I can't tell you how important it is to get a very detailed spreadsheet, lots of tabs laying everything out with variable fields. I call them variable fields. I usually highlight them in yellow myself. So if you say we could get 15% market share and your investor says, no, I think you can only get 12, you change the number on the fly from 15 to 12 and you watch all the subsequent numbers change. That build out of a spreadsheet takes a while. But yours is going to be higher quality because you have experience, you have real numbers to plug in. But if you're going to go for the VC route, that has to be solid. VC guys are, and I say guys because there tend to be men, but there's some women there too. VC guys tend to be financial folks, not so much tech folks or innovation folks, even though they're that too. They run the numbers. So that's got to be super solid. What I'd recommend, there are multiple organizations that will help you with things like that, accelerators, incubators, but you don't need their whole model. You just need help with one specific item. That's a detailed financial analysis and a business plan. And so start with that and ask them for that. They may charge you. There's a lot that are complimentary out there, especially many that come from local chamber of commerces and things of that nature, local governments. They want to see you succeed. So find one, and they actually have good templates. So I would say start there, plug in real numbers, and go over it multiple times with different scenarios. So, okay, I've been told.
Thank you very much, Professor.
I think we're out at close to time. Is that right, Alina? Do I need to close this out? I saw your message pop up.
Yeah, since we have gone over time, I think at this point, if there's a way you would like to share a way for participants to communicate with you, should they have a question, we'll do that, but we will close the session up.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your help, Alina. I truly appreciate it. My email's on it. I will send this deck in a PDF format over to the administration and they can get it out to you from there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.